So we start the Mishnah now in the new Perek, which is the ninth and last Perek Hamagarish. Hamagarish says, Ishto v'omer Allah, at the time that he gave her the get, he said, Tareat muteres l'chol adam ella leploni. And the word ella, the Gemara is going to try to analyze whether it means chutz miploni or almanas. It's a t'nai that she doesn't get married to ploni. Rabbi Eliezer Matib. Rabbi Eliezer says that that get is a valid get, and she can marry anyone with the exception of that one person. The radical premise that underlies Rabbi Eliezer's ruling is that you could have a hafkas ishus, but yet that ishus still remains. And in effect, what happens is that anyone could marry this woman, yet she's still attached to her original husband with a mixas ishus that generates an isur on ploni. Chachamim say the get is possible. It's not worth the paper it's written on. Now, the Gemara in Masechet Nedarim on Daf Pei Zayin establishes a halacha of toch kidei dibur kidibur dami. So what's happening is that after the Baal gives her the get, toch kidei dibur of the Mesiras HaGet, he says that this get should be matayu chutz miploni. And therefore, somehow that dibur impacts on the Maaseh Gerushin, even though it took place after the Maaseh Gerushin, through the principle of toch kidei dibur. So Ketzad Yas, now the get itself is kosher, because the chutz miploni is not written in gufo shel get. And therefore, all he has to do is take the get back and give it to her again. The Yomer, in this case, get it right. Hareat muteres l'chol adam. And that's all the get has to accomplish is muteres l'chol adam and omitting the chutz miploni. Ksavo b'tocho, however, if the chutz miploni was written in the gufo shel get, is afal pisha chazur mechako posel. Now the get is possible because the get itself was written and signed with a chutz, and it wasn't a get that is valid according to Chacham. It wasn't krisus, and the gufo shel get is possible. Iboilahu, the Gemara raises the following suffix. Chai, could you close your door there? Hi Ella chutu o almanasu. Is the word Ella here identical with chutz, or is he creating a t'nai and he's saying the get is your get on condition that you don't marry so-and-so? And the Gemara now analyzes the nafkamina. Chutzu ubechutzu depligi rabbanan alei to Rabbi Eliezer. The reason why the Chachamim object to Rabbi Eliezer and they passel the get is because of chutz. Chutz means that the ishus is not being broken up entirely, and there's no complete krisus. Does shir of a get, because the get was kores, and yet there's still an ishus relationship between the megarish and the miskareshes, and it expresses itself in the fact that vis-a-vis so-and-so, she's still an ishus ish. Avo bi'almanas, according to this side in the Gemara's suffix, if he had said to her, almanas, shaloti nasi leploni, module, the chachamim would concede to Rabbi Eliezer that the get is a valid get. And now we have to see, if she goes ahead and marries so-and-so, then she was mavatal the t'nai, and the get is batal, like in any t'nai, when there's bittul t'nai, and then there's bittul get. But if, on the other hand, she marries another person, anyone mina alma, then she has fulfilled the condition in that get, and everything is perfect. O dilma, or should we say no? That what does the word ella mean? Almanasu. Ubi almanasu de polig Rabbi Eliezer ad Rabban. The Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer, both together unanimously, will agree that chutz is not a valid get. That's called shir beget. And he wasn't mafkir the ishus, and it wasn't a complete krisus. The machlokas, therefore, between Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanon revolves around almanas. And we understand Rabbi Eliezer perfectly. He's machshir the get because it's a Tanai. And like any other Tanai, we'll wait and see whether there's bittul Tanai or kiyum Tanai. The Chachamim nevertheless possibly get, even though there is a Tanai. Now, if we go with this second explanation or second possibility of the Gemara's Safek, which means that Rabbanon reject even almanas and they possibly get, then what we're going to see clearly is that there's a difference between the following two lashonos. Almanas shelo tinasi v'lo tiboili leploni, or almanas shelo tinasi. Did he add in the Tanai v'lo tiboili? What's going to happen here is, according to one school of thought in the Rishonim, if he would have said lo tinasi v'lo tiboili leploni, that means that the get was not poel, was not meaningful vis-a-vis ploni. And that's why the Chachamim would say that even in a Lashon Almanas, it's like shir beget, it's like chutz. However, if he says to her, Almanas shelo tinasi leploni, and he didn't add velo tibali leploni, which means that the get was meaningful even as far as ploni is concerned, legabi ma'ases nus. So if she and that ploni would have a znus, a one-night fling, so to speak, then there would be no Isser Eishes Ish, and the get was moel even with regard to ploni. And in that case, according to this school of Rishonim, the get would be kosher according to the Chacham. The Rosh, however, says that in a case where he said almanas shelo tinasi v'lo tiboili, the get is possible even according to Rabbi Eliezer. Because since we're saying now that the machlokas Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim is only with regard to almanas, and Rabbi Eliezer, according to this tzad, agrees that chutz is possible, if he had made the Tanai of almanas shelo tinasi v'lo tiboili, that's exactly like chutz, because the ishus was not paka vis-a-vis ploni, and it's exactly like chutz. Amar Ravina. Ravina wants to be poshet the suffix and determine what does the word Ella mean. And the premise is that if you could find another Mishnah somewhere in Shas where the word Ella is used and it means chutz, then it should mean that Ella should mean chutz in our Mishnah as well. Tashma, quoting a Mishnah in the 12th parak of Negoim. Now, with regard to Negoim, we're talking about Nigei Batim, and that Negoim is only Noeg in Eretz Yisrael, but not only that, it's only Noeg with Batei Yisrael. But if you have a bias of an Akum, then there's no Tumas Negoim. Kol Abatim Mitam B'Negoim, right? Ella, and now we're going to interpret the word Ella as Chutz, Shal Ovdei Kolcham. So if you have a bias that's owned by a Goy, then it's not Mitami B'Negoim. If we explain that the word Ella means chutz shapit, I can explain this brisa. And all batim atmeim betumas negoyim nigei batim except for batei ovdei kolchav. They're not metami b'negoyim. Ella I amrit almanas. How could you possibly push almanas into this Tanai? Almanas lo mitami batei ovdei kolchav huda mitami batei Yisrael. You're going to say that batei Yisrael are mitamim only b'Tanai, that batei akum are not mitamim. Mitmu batei ovdei kolchavim v'lo mitami batei Yisrael. What are you going to say? That maybe there's a possibility that there is tumas batei akum? There is no such thing. There's no entity as batei akum. It can't be almanas. V'yod, and furthermore, Batei Avdim ki mitami, for Tanya we have a price that derives this halacha, excluding Batei Akum from Tumas Negoim from a pasuk. And the pasuk in Vayikra Yudal says, "V'nasati nega tzaras b'beis eretz achuzaschem." Eretz achuzaschem, those lands and bat that belong to you, mitami v'negoim. V'ain batei ovdei kochav mitami v'negoim. They're not considered eretz achuzaschem. So therefore, it's not possible at all with regard to Tumas Negoim in batei ovdei kochavim to set up a t'nai and say, well, if Batei Akum are not Metamin, what do you mean? Batei Akum were excluded from Tumas Negoim. El Shmami, no, we see clearly Chutzu, Shmami. So now we're saying that the word Ella certainly means Chutz. And if the machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim in the language of Chutz, and that is Shir Beget, and Rabbi Eliezer's Machshir Get even in Chutz, and she be Muteres L'Kuliyama Chutz Miploni, then as far as Almanas is concerned, it's quite possible, and it's almost muchach to assume that the Chachamim would be Machshir the Get like Rabbi Eliezer in the case of Almanas. And Almanas remains a Tanai. And the Gemara's language above is Midi Havi called Tanai Bi'alma. And this is the Psak of the Rif. And other Rishonim will follow in the way of the Rif, that we're going to paskin that in the case of Almanas, the get is Chal. And the Gemara now goes on and says, Masnisin, our Mishnah holds that there's Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer Chacham in the language of Chutz, as we proved, to Lokai Tan, is against the Tana of the following Bryce. The Sanya, we went to the Bryce Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Lo nechleku Rabbi Eliezer v'chachamim ala megarishes ishto v'yomer la'reit muteres chol adam chutz miploni. It means there never was an argument about that. Eina megarishes. Even Rabbi Eliezer would concede that there's no such thing as a get with a shiur. Al ma nechleku ala megarishes ishto v'yomer la'reit muteres chol adam amanashe lo tinasi leploni. And that means that if we're interpreting the Mishnah as chutz, and Ella means chutz, then how do we reconcile that with the Brisa that presumes that the entire machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Chacham revolve around Almanas?